saying he's a holder of a Doctor of Theoretical Sciences in Atomic Cosmology from Illinois Evangelical University, Haiti, Doctor of Theology from Cambridge Theological Seminary, USA, and PhD in Patristics Studies from Christos University. He is the founder and apostle of Christ Apostolic Commission International. He's also the CEO of Multi-Cash Investments Incorporation, of financial and business consulting firm. He's equally the pioneer, leader, and founder of Pan-African Freedom Movement, a political analyst and motivational and public speaker. And we also have as our guests. 1 second. Oh Christ, my internet is really playing tricks with me today. So we also have as our guest Jazil Milina. I'm hoping I got that right.
Yes, you got that right.
So he's Jamaican, born in England. And a Black Lives Matter activist. So those are the two panelists that we have present today. I don't know if it's possible for me to talk about the third one, but when it gets here, we will get to know more about it. And let's go directly into the topic for the day. Today we'll be talking about Africa Continental Free Trade Area that has as headquarters Ghana. And what we want to find out today is could it be a green light for African unity? Could, the launching of the African Continental Free Trade Area
I didn't get you clear there.
Her video has frozen. Her video has frozen at the moment. I'm seeing a frozen screenshot for her, and there is no audio coming from her end. Okay.
With headquarters in Ghana, be a green light for our first newest panelist. That is not first of all the.
And so at the moment she is totally going off.
Okay. In order to begin, the program again is actually our focus today is actually to discuss about the free trade zone, free trade area that has been created in Africa and signed by over 40 different nations. And actually at this particular Hello? Somebody getting me?
Yes, Prof, you can go on. I was just apologizing for going off. My internet is disturbing, but yeah.
Okay. So as I was saying, I said today's program actually is focusing on finding out whether the idea of the free trade area that has been created, or let's say the headquarters have been created in Nigeria, in Ghana, which as of the moment, about 40 different African states have actually signed the accord. There's a kind of, we're asking if it's a kind of pointer to show that Africa is actually on the path to unity or not. So that is where we'll be focusing on. And so before we get to talk about that, I want to say Africa always realizes its strength when it is in union, in unity. And one of the things a lot of us might not get is we tend at times to believe that the African people are too divisive. But the divisiveness of the African people is artificial. Yeah, I will repeat that again. The divisiveness of the African people is artificial. It is a division that was actually established far back as 1884, December to 1885, February, by a group of hooligans who sat in Europe, Caucasians, that sat in Europe and made up their minds to actually divide Africa without the opinion of Africans. When they came up, they actually took Africa like a piece of bread, a piece of cake, placed it on their table and cut it into pieces for themselves. And realizing that was a means for them to actually continue their looting, because I want to tell you how they got to that. You discover that the king of Belgium, Leopold II, had made the Congos his personal property and was willing to kill anybody who comes into it or step into that particular area. And so it all happened that the other nations, the British, the Germans, in the process of doing their own looting, they stepped into the Congos. And when they stepped into the Congos, it actually annoyed Leopold, and Leopold was ready to start a war. And for the sake of peace, Bismarck, who was then the Chancellor of Germany, had to call a meeting. And in this meeting, he decided to tell these guys, okay, we don't need to create a war. We don't need to fight. What we need to do is we need to be able to divide this Africa among ourselves so that we can best loot from our own area. So each person should have a particular place or environment from where he loots. And that they agreed on, and they divided Africa in the absence of Africans, and were ready to kill for that. So when they came to loot Africa, they were ready to kill Africans for the sake of the gold that they were getting out of Africa. And with that kind of a mindset, that is how they sat in Berlin in 1884 to divide Africa. And when they did that, they now came to deceive you people that they actually have come to develop you people, to develop the African people. And that division, they further made sure they solidified it by maintaining those borders and teaching Africans that the people of the other who fall under a particular colonial master are not citizens of a particular environment. Because before, with our tribes and kingdoms that were in Africa, were trading without visas. They came to Africa without visas, but when they were leaving, they created visas for us. Visas which we can't use a visa to enter their countries one way. They come here without visas, but we go there with visas. So it's a matter of one way. And apart from that, I now need a visa, an authorization to visit my brother who is in Nigeria. I now need a visa to visit my sister who is in Gabon. And that is where the African problem of division started from. Us as African people, our ancestors and forefathers never knew anything about division. They never had these borders created, which they use in actually separating one another from cooperating with one another. And so, when the time came when some of our fathers actually started understanding the game that was being played on them by these Caucasians, they got obsessed with the idea of actually liberating Africa from the yoke of these Caucasians. And as a result of that, they got to the point where they successfully were able to fight for this independence. And they gave them a so-called political independence without actually giving them political, economic independence. And you know, political independence without economic independence is still dependency. You are still a slave. And so they systematically developed slaves in Africa and created fences and put us inside in the name of borders and countries. And today, as the African people, we are actually living in these fences that they created for us. And we've actually believed in these fences until we have given names to the various fences. There's a fence that people are locked inside called Cameroon. There's another fence where people are locked inside called Ghana. Another fence called Nigeria. So all these fences where we have been locked inside as slaves and not the making of our ancestors, not the making of our people, it is an artificial boundary that has been created by a people who are not living with us. They actually sat in their nation and created boundaries for us while they lifted theirs. You see, the Europeans today, they created boundaries for us, but they have lifted their own boundaries and they are able to interact with one another and have access to one nation to the other without any stress or distress. But with us, it becomes difficult to work like that. And so, like I said, when the fathers fought for these independence, as they called it, they were like the horse that I'm seeing on Zakele, so profile picture, where the horse has been tied on a chair and make the horse to believe that it is unable to walk. With all the force that it has, it is unable to lose itself. So I think the time has come for Africans to realize that these borders were artificial. And you know what? With the realization of our fathers, these particular boundaries started being lifted. When our fathers in 1963 gathered in Addis Ababa in Ethiopia, manned by Haile Selassie and our beloved Kwame Nkrumah, they made their position clear. Today is independence, but tomorrow is going to be unity. And you know what? That unity for over 60 years today has not yet been granted, because we are still being held in these fences and being manipulated by the looters who came from Europe into Africa. Some of them, they have done their best to loot Africa, and because they have seen how great the wealth of Africa is, they are unwilling to leave. I will still tell you, they are ready to kill for it. And that is why they killed Nkrumah. That is why they killed Thomas Sankara. That is why they have been killing and killing anyone who wants to raise his head. And so, this time around, our fathers and our fellow leaders and brothers who are in leadership today, during the days of Kagame as the president of the African Union, Paul Kagame of Rwanda, he initiated the African Continental Free Trade Area, which today is being realized, where about 40 different nations have been able to sign the accord to accept that, okay, they are ready to uplift the borders for trade to be possible, where food will leave Cameroon and enter into Nigeria without any visa. where food will be sold among, where we'll be able to sell and trade among ourselves without boundaries. That particular vision, we are praying that it should be realized, because that is a means through which Africa will gain its authority. And so, to round up here and give the opportunity to the next person to talk, I'll be sincere to tell you that when I saw the president of Ghana actually being able to hand over the headquarters of these AfCFTA, I think so, that's the name, Africa Continental Free Trade Area, when he had the head office and the residence for the chairman of the office. When he did that, I had some joy leaping in my heart, because I saw hope. And I believe that the vision of being able to unite Africa on the basis of economy can be a reality within a short period of time. If that is done, then the political freedom will surely follow along with it. I am saying this because if that truly happened with the 55 nations actually merging their economy together, Africa become the biggest and the greatest market in the whole world. And if we are able to trade among ourselves, the economy of Africa become the largest in the whole world. And at that particular moment, we'll be able to define policies that will permit Europeans accessing Africa and Chinese people accessing Africa to play on equal grounds. Because so far they have been raping us and exploiting, extorting, looting us in Africa, because when they come as a giant, just look at the entire United States of America coming to Africa to come and locate one little state like Djibouti, Somalia, made of few people, Equatorial Guinea. You can't actually impose any form of policy to them, because they are coming as giants with a kind of authority that you can't actually do it. And they are ready to crush you if in case you want to in any way fight against them or stand against them. So brothers and sisters, I see Africa getting to the place where we will take over our destinies, where we will be able to rule and be able to stand before the Caucasians, the Chinese people, and whosoever is coming to do business with us on an equal ground. Without this union, without this free trade zone area, without the merging of these economies, Africa remains vulnerable in the face of these giants coming to trade with Africa. And so it becomes a responsibility for every African to make sure we rise and stand behind these leaders who are making sure they gradually fight to see that Africa gets a position and a place where it can work together. That is a responsibility of every African as I'm talking right now. It is not, when I talk of an African, I'm talking of every African. Every African, irrespective of where you are. You were born in Jamaica. You were born in Trinidad. You were born in Brazil. You were born in Italy. You were born in Britain. You were born wheresoever you were born in. We are calling forth on you to know it is time to be African and stand for Africa. When I see the Jewish people, wheresoever they are in the world, when it is time to go back to the Jewish land to stand for the Jews, they don't hesitate. A Jew in America is a Jew. A Jew in Britain is a Jew. A Jew in Ethiopia is a Jew. A Jew in Egypt is a Jew. They don't know any difference. And so should Africans not know any difference. I think it is time for Africans to realize that we can't live separated and become a giant nation. We must unite to become what we expect to see. And if we unite, our brothers who have been molested in China, maltreated, dominated, and actually enslaved in France, enslaved in America, enslaved in Jamaica, in Trinidad, and wheresoever they will be respected because Africa would have risen. I think it is time for that to happen. So Blandine, I think it is what I could contribute for now.
Right. Thank you very much, Prof, for your contributions. Rather unfortunate that my internet has been disturbing, so I've been off and on. But what I've gathered so much is that with the Africa Continental Free Trade area, it's going to open doors. But before we talk about a lot of doors that are being opening, let me ask Jazil, do you believe that this fences like Prof was talking about, do you think that they were put there for a reason? And if so, what do you really think the reason behind, that act was?
I didn't get that at all. Can you come again, please?
So I'm asking, right? Prof was talking about these fences that were put in place in Africa. The reason why you need a visa to go to your nearest neighbor. So my question to you is, do you believe that these fences were erected for reason? And if so, then what could the reason be?
Yeah, definitely. Most of what my brother Akumbo, am I right when I said Akumbo?
It's Akumbom.
Akumbom.
Yeah.
Akumbom, yeah. Akumbom was saying was actually was right on. He shares a lot of ideas that I have. Yeah, that was definitely the case. It was all about greed from the Europeans to being based onto a culture that wasn't, they weren't used to it. There was a post inside of the Emancipation of Africa group where one of the kings was, I think it was the same king we were talking about in Belgium, who mentioned that when he came to Africa, he saw no poor person, he saw no beggar, he saw no thief. They had a really, really high personal moral standard that made him realize that the only way they could actually break Africa was to break the moral standard of Africa. And if you look at that, if you look at the way Africa is, living in Africa for 15 years, it's very obvious that the moral standard has been completely broken. It's a continent that is based a lot about wars, a lot about terrible governments. Governments at times don't even exist. Then you have militias building up in certain places, like they have in Mali, for example. Then they start killing people. It's crazy. You don't have these kind of things in many different parts of the world because the way the organization of the government is much, much better than that comparing to Africa. And that's why they have a lot of coup d'etats, like we had in Mali the other day, was basically because the people were just tired of this government doing absolutely nothing. They're just sitting in bed doing nothing. And people are there trying to build up, trying to make it. And there's just no help, no opportunity for them at all, even though the ambition is there. And after some time, it just leads to frustration until the army put it on themselves to say, look, let's go there and let's get rid of this president. Obviously, we don't know what that means now. Does that mean that the country is going to be better now? We don't know. We're just doing this thing about the free trade, and they just had I think it was what do they call it? Some kind of level where they had every country wanted to join had to be on this level. I'm not saying the right English word because of my German. I want to say it in German. The right standard. They have to have a certain standard so they can come into the economical community of this free trade African society. And Mali made that, obviously. But now with the coup d'etat that they have, what kind of impact is that going to have on Mali? Is Mali still going to be in it after some time? There's a lot of questions that are being raised by these kind of small problems that Africa has. So it's very important, like something that was built now is very important because it gives a much more in-depth look at how Africa is being run. And I think heads of states are going to have to be more, they have to kind of check that better. They have to kind of look at that better. They have to make some kind of effort because somebody at the end of the day is going to come there and look at it and say, oh, but you guys didn't do nothing at all. Your economy is just terrible. Is anybody here working or doing anything whatsoever? Those kind of questions can come up now because other countries or other people who are not biased are looking into these things, and suggestions can be brought, help can be brought. Other countries who are successful, they can go to other countries who are not so successful, but they are trying their best to be successful, to help them with good ideas, good things, to bring them up. And Ghana just so happens to be one of those countries that has had a higher percentage of success rate when it comes to development. And that's why I thought that they taking over from Ethiopia wasn't a bad idea at all. I don't know if I'm going a bit too far with this answer though.
No, you're not. You're not. We're all keen and we're listening. So please go ahead by all means.
Yeah. So I did watch it on virtual TV. I watched it on online. I couldn't be able to watch the whole thing because I was a bit busy at the time. It was a very long video. I tell you something, when it comes to political speeches, Africans must try to do far better than that. It's just like somebody coming there the whole time talking about, oh, and thank you, the government of Ghana, and the second government of Ghana, and the third government of Ghana, and all the pastors in this church, and all the pastors in that church, and all the imams in this mosque, and all the imams in that mosque, and the Minister of Trade, Minister of Romance, Minister, oh my God. People were sleeping. The camera was showing you the public, and they were just asleep, man. They were interested in this. I think it makes more sense to kind of give a brief greeting to everybody in the room. Hello, everybody who's here, and then get straight to the topic because that's why we're here. We want to hear what you have to say about this because it really affects us. We want to know what kind of plans do you have set up and everything. And it looked to me like they didn't have no plan, like they were just handing over something. And to an extent, it did look a bit, and I'm gonna go a bit dark here. It did look like some kind of boasting of Ghana, of their financial achievements that they've achieved through the year. It could be that, but it could also be that leads them to do great work. So I don't want to say anything negative about it. But at the moment, if we look at what we have on paper, that's all it was. That's all it was. Oh, great. They even used the word, I wrote it down here, powerful government of Ghana. And okay, all right, Ghana is good in Africa and everything, but what my brother Akumbom was saying right now about Africa having the potential to reach so far, and these people had the same in-depth about this thing, like, yeah, we're going to be so far after a couple of years. Then they wouldn't call themselves powerful now because they know that in a couple of years, that's powerful. That's where we want to be. Now we're not where we want to be. Now we're calling ourselves powerful, but we're not there where we want to be. We have to reach there in a couple of years with good planning, with right kind of attitude about this. And in the 10 years, when we reach where we want to reach, then we can call ourselves whatever we want to call because we've achieved something. But without achieving nothing, calling yourself powerful and all these things got me a little bit scared. I don't want to be too scared because my man Rawlings is there, and I love Rawlings. I must admit to you, Rawlings is a hard guy. He's a man who will come out of his car and start directing traffic if he feels like that's what needs to be done. He's a man of work. He's a man of action. And this kind of people, if they're leading the free trade, or they even have some kind of hand inside of it, you feel like the ship is going to somehow travel in the right direction. So more grease to their elbows. I wish them all the best of luck for that. And we'll see if because their goals, what they want to reach, are really, really good. I just wrote some of them down. They talk about, basically increasing the level of trade between different parts of Africa. At the moment, they're saying what? It's 15% of the trade that they're making, of the whole, what they're making the whole year in Africa is between themselves. And you must think it's between maybe Ghana and South Africa, Nigeria and Ghana, Egypt and Ethiopia, some of the big countries. It's not between Congo and Guinea or something. It's not like that, but it would be better if it was like that, because maybe these two, they use a very good word, the trade minister used something called, if I can find it, economical diversification. That would mean that the markets inside of Guinea and the market inside of Congo have two resources that actually offer something that can be done on a cheaper thing that makes it very, very, very worthwhile to invest into that, because it's something that can build up the two countries, build jobs, build all kind of things that won't be there if the two countries don't have this free trade agreement, you know? So it's some of their ideas, to be honest with you, they're very interesting, and it looks like, whoa, if they're able to implement what they said there, wow. Man, I don't know why I'm living in Cologne. I should be traveling to Africa and start doing some business there, because it looks like it's going to be the land to be in very soon. You know, they talk about employment. They talk about a lot of great things that Africa can give to the whole world, actually. Because remember something too, is that if I'm just going to conclude right now really quick. Africa right now has become like a labor to the world. It's like they're begging you for help, they're begging you for this, they're begging you for that. If Africa could change that all around and not just be begging people for anything, but actually contributing to certain things, being part of something things. If we're talking about military structures, Africa should be considered. They're not considered. They're not considered. The only thing they consider them is, oh, we don't like this guy. Okay, arm those militias there and have them overthrow them. That's basically it. You understand what I mean? So we're looking forward to things like this to be implemented, the right strategies being taken, and then hopefully Africa's going to be a place where we all can enjoy and live happily and peacefully, as my brother just said. Very much. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. Yeah.
Thank you, Jazeel. Thank you so much for your contribution. And yes, you said a lot. And what the two things that I picked up, and I want to come back to you before we give the floor to any other person that will have something to contribute. He mentioned the first thing he spoke was he had the feeling that these people were playing with Africans' mentality. So, Prof, are you there? You look frozen.
I'm there.
Yeah. So, what do you have to say about the statement when they say? Because now I'm thinking about our African leaders, and I'm thinking, they're at this point with their corrupt nature. They're at this point where you just need to appease them with one or two things, make them feel better about themselves, and then poof, you can get whatever you want out of the country. So, do you think that at some point there's this level of the African mentality or the African leaders' mentality being played with? You also mentioned where Ghana was described as a powerful nation, and we all know that in as much as we have African nations, and we can categorize them and say this, you are this level and this level, we all know that there's a particular level that we can say you are a powerful nation. And to be honest, most of these African nations are not there yet. So do you think that there's a game that's going on, being played with African mentality as far as the Africa continental free trade area is concerned?
If that question is like implying if the Europeans are thinking that African nations are actually great, then that would be a game that they are playing. What am I saying? I'm simply saying that Europeans do actually underlook Africa, and so in no way would they ever think that Africa, if they use the word that a nation in Africa is great, it's just a way to play indeed over their minds, because they know that Africans, as long as they are divided, they are not great in any way. And so if they mention the fact that Africans are great, then they are not great. I think this question was supposed to go back but to Jazeel, who actually said it. So, but anyway, answering it, I'm simply saying if it's the Europeans who actually mention it, then it is just a game. It's just a game. I'm sure I've answered your question. That's not a line of the questions I came to actually answer, but I've given you an answer. I think it's a game.
Right. Thank you very much, Prof, for that. Justin, I'm going to come back to you with the second statement that you made about economical diversification. What do you think that, how beneficial is that going to be to the African nation
Is that to
or the
me?
African continent?
Is
The
that to
A,
me?
the AF.
No, no, I'm talking to Jazil.
Okay.
No, no, Prof, it's for Jazil. I'm going to come back to you.
Okay. Yeah. Um, well, very profitable. Very, very. It's an avenue that is not being properly used there at all. I lived in Ghana. I lived in Ethiopia. I traveled from Ghana to Togo a couple of times, and boy, it's terrible. You could even call it a road, you know. If you okay, yeah, you could, but it's not the best, you know. The communications could be much better. The trade could be much, especially like countries that are right next to each other. You know what I mean? It should be better. And these are things that we want to hear. We want to hear also about. I remember when I was living in Ethiopia. I don't know if it's the same. I think it's changed now. But there were even problems like calling. Uh, Eritrea was 10 times more expensive than calling America because there were no satellites from Africa that could send it. So actually, when you're calling, that you're calling to America and then back to Eritrea. So it's so expensive because it's so far away, you know. And yeah, obviously, if we can fix that problem and have much more unity amongst the economics, just like Akumba was saying at the beginning, that that's how it was already. That was a natural way of Africa before any Europeans came there. It was trade. It was all about trade. It's a different continent than that of Europe. So even that's why sometimes I'm even thinking that, you know, because would it be any different now? We are Africans are living under oppression, yeah? Would it be any different now if, let's say, Africa was to be world powers now and they were ruling the world and everything is great, but Europe was now under oppression and Europe was in poverty and nothing was happening and Africans were fooling Europeans to get what they want, you know? It would be the same. It would be like the Europeans won at the end of the day because their mentality actually is still there. That's what we're doing now. That's what the main people they do. They oppress the other ones, and that's not where. How could I say? That's not an utopia for the world. It's not what. It's not. If you think about it on a certain level, it's always better when all of us on this group are all rich because then we are trusting each other. We are building up each other. We have more love for each other. There's hardly any idea that, oh, you're trying to take something from me because you have, I have, we all have. Nobody's looking for it. But if one of us don't have, then all of a sudden there's contempt in the whole thing. There's doubt in the whole thing. And this is a system that the Europeans brought. Because remember, before in Africa, these things weren't there. There was nothing like money. There was nothing like personal possessions. These things that the Europeans brought, if we pursue those things, we won't really get what we ever desire. We'll just live. Look, I live in Europe. I don't know how many of you live in Europe, but the people here are very depressed. They're very angry. They're very, very upset. They have everything. And the biggest problem in the world is, why doesn't the light switch on when I touch it? That's their problem, you know?
Right. That's funny because if they're having that kind of problem, then I wonder how they'll feel if they were put in their shoes, because we go days without electricity in my country, Cameroon. But yeah, okay, we survive either ways. Prof, I'm gonna ask you this question, and it's in regards to our African leaders. Now let's talk about our African leaders vis-a-vis the AfCFTA. Do you believe that they will fully support, you know, the progress of this initiative, bearing in mind their nature? We know that there's a lot of things that we can say that the European has have put in place in Africa, but we also know that our corrupt leaders sometimes, most often, make sure that these things are being kept in place for their own benefit. And now we're facing a major change, or let's say a major step back forward, because before in Africa we didn't have these fences like you put them, and now we're getting back to the point where we breaking down the fences, and our leaders corrupt ones especially, have made a fortune or a name for themselves, you know, with the state that Africa has been for the past years. So do you think they're gonna actually say, you know what, let's put our selfishness aside and work for the betterment of Africa?
What I would say about that question is that when you look at the African people as they are, like I mentioned earlier by saying that uh, the state in which the African people live in right now, it is not as a result of their making. It is like I will use the word, most Africans are actually living in the matrix. I don't know if you've watched the film The Matrix. They are living an experience that is actually practically different from what is real. And so in that particular programming in which they find themselves, they will keep producing the same results and keep doing the same things. And so if we actually need to change the tide of things, we must remove Africans out of the matrix, and we remove their leaders out of the matrix because they are living inside there. And to be sincere with you, most of them had been programmed to actually fight against the unity of the African people. And so it would just be normal if some of them rise up to fight. But I want to tell you, the president of my country for a long period of time has been doing his best to make sure that he actually disconnects his nation from the yoke of France, because France, as the colonial master of Cameroon, actually before giving Cameroon independence, did something worse than could have been done, and that went to 14 different African nations which were colonized by the French people. I just heard Jazil actually mentioning Togo and the road network very bad, simply because the Frenchman is interested about what he gets from Africa, not what he can give to Africa. When the Malians actually rejected to sign that particular pact of continuation of colonization, that's the name of the pact. The pact of the continuation of colonization. So they came and said, okay, we are giving you independence, but you need to sign this pact that colonization needs to continue. And they gave reasons why they have to control your education. They have to control your money. They have to control your borders. They have to control, they have to control, they have to control. And so practically, most of these nations are still under colonization. They are not yet independent. So they don't have the audacity and authority to actually take decisions for themselves. And that is why when you look at Ivory Coast as a nation today, most of the soldiers that are actually in Ivory Coast today are French soldiers. What are French soldiers doing in Africa? If Africa is independent, if Ivory Coast is independent, what are French soldiers doing in Mali in great quantities? If those nations are independent, what are they doing here? That's to make you understand that African countries are not independent. They had signed this pact of continuation of colonization, so they are still under colonization, and that was supposed to last for 75 years. So, is it yet 75 years? I mean, when it comes to the money, is it 75 years? Yes, it should be 75 years today. But the independence of our nations
75 years since when?
Since 1945.
Yeah.
When they brought the money, precisely the money, but when they came to sign the pact of continuation of colonization, that is something that is supposed to last for about 60 years. And certainly we have attained that period of independence, but still the French people are not ready to let go of these African nations. Precisely, I'm talking Cameroon because in relation to what is called so-called independence, the Cameroon got its independence in 1961, and when the French, the English, that's La République du Cameroon, and when the English section that was under a trust territory under the British actually came in 1961, the two are considered now as a nation under France colonization. And so since then, they have been under that. So I want to ask you a question, Madam Journalist. You think that these people who are under colonial masters can make a decision for themselves? I don't think so. I don't think they can make a decision for themselves. So it means that they are still being controlled. And so when at times they come out with lofty ideas and present them to you and I, they are doing that to please the colonial master, not to please the African people. And so it is true that every time something happens, we are supposed to look at it from the positive perspective and also look at the negative, the disadvantages in it. But I want to be pessimistic, I don't want to be pessimistic. I want to be optimistic because I am an optimist. I believe that this so-called African continental free trade area that has been signed by over 40 different nations in Africa is a light, it's a green light that is pointing towards somewhere so great for Africans. You know, when a master eats the bread on the table and chooses to give crumbs to the beggars that are sitting under the table, at times, if you are a beggar, you need to look beyond the bread. And that is exactly what I am doing right now, because we have been manipulated and placed under the table like slaves, and they are eating from the table of our own continent. So we need to change the tide of that and be those sitting on the table, because if we have to remain under the table, we'll keep on being slaves forever. So even though we do not believe that our leaders can actually stand with their words, you just saw what happened in Ivory Coast when Ouattara got up and says, I actually want to give power to the youthful generation. I don't want to run for third term in electing to be president again, because I think my time is expired. A couple of minutes ago, I was listening to him when he was launching his acceptance speech for to run as president for his party. He said those guys who were struggling to hold him based on the Constitution do not know that he is the one who actually wrote that Constitution. Wow. They do not know that he was actually establishing the Third Republic. You see, he said the Second Republic was taken by coup d'etat, and he was the one who used the coup d'etat to actually take it from Gbagbo. And now he says he's going in now as a democratic politician to run. Such a person cannot decide anything good for Africa. He is not a stable man. He is not a person to be trusted. His words are actually, he goes completely against his words. Today, what is happening in Mali, what Chazil does not understand is that the Ibrahim Keita, who was actually the president, who just was ousted out of power by the mutinies, military guys, I will be sincere with you, he came to power through what means? He came to power through a coup d'etat. So it's just obvious that a gun you use in shooting others will turn on you one day. And so that is what has happened with him right now. But I'm not saying that I don't believe that something good can come out of that. Even though this kind of persons have been sitting there and struggling to pretend that they are deciding for Africa, though working for France, though working for the Europeans, there are some of them, I mean, there are some of them that can still be able to work for Africa. Paul Kagame, in everything that he has done, has been working for Africa. John Magufuli has been working for Africa. Some Ghanaians might not believe, but Addo is working for Africa. So I believe that they are going to do something that will be worth. I believe my president in Cameroon, Paul Biya, has been playing his game to make sure he can free Africa, free Cameroon from the hands of the French people. There are issues that most of us will not understand that he was doing, but he has been doing some things that a lot of Cameroonians might not understand. It is true that some of them have lasted on this seat. For example, him has lasted on this seat for a long period of time that Cameroonians don't trust him anymore. Also because of the state of the economy of Cameroon, because he took it as a buoyant economy, was buoyant when he came to power. But under his leadership, corruption has been enthroned. In the days of Aijo, if you corrupt, you'll be shot.
How will you say that he's been doing something good?
But he has been working and doing so great things to free Cameroon from the hands of the French. He was supposed to have resigned the pact to give France the audacity to still continue ruling in Cameroon. But he has not done it. He has not done many other things. It is true that he has his weaknesses and he has a lot of things that he has failed us on, but it's not everything he has failed us on. So even though we criticize some of them, we should not just criticize and forget that they have something that they have given. I still believe that it is the youthful generation that has the audacity to change Africa, not these old gods sitting in power. So I don't believe that everything they have done is bad, but I will be sincere with you, they have been working for the colonizer. And so it is our place as African youth to rise up to the occasion and be able to take over the helm of power in these various nations. I know it is a system that is in operation, and we need to dismantle this particular system if we have to rise. That's the only means possible. And so Africa is able to rise up because a lot of young Africans have become aware of the situation that is happening right now, and they are ready to do everything possible to make sure the situation changes. So as long as this green light has been shown to us, it is our place to stand for it and be ready to give our life for it. A lot of us might not understand what is happening right now, but it is a choice that we have to make. Africa needs to unite, and we must give even if our life for it. Because I will be sincere to tell you this. I will always make this statement. What our fathers died for, what our fathers were willing to live for and died for, we should be willing to die for while living for. It is a choice. You must make that decision to choose to live for it or to die for it. It is a decision that can turn Africa's destiny into a great one. We can't allow our continent to keep on being mutilated like it is being mutilated today, where the arms are being removed, the legs are removed, the head removed by foreigners who do not belong in our continent. We can't allow them to continue doing that. Thank you.
Oh, thank you very much, Prof, for that deep insight. I'm hoping and really praying that you know leaders get disconnected, most those who are still to have a better Africa. So we have two people that have opted for contribution. I'm thinking while our panelists take a breather, we're going to give them 5 minutes each to express what they have for us this evening, and then we will get back to our panelists, and then finally close the curtain. So I'm going to begin with you, Damien. Thank you, Damien. Welcome, first of all. And, it's like I said earlier, it's better late than never. Thank you for joining us this evening. And you said you had a contribution, so the floor is yours.
Yeah, I had a contribution. I'm sorry I was late. There were many things that came on my way. I had a bad week this week. Anyway, the week is over, so thank God. So anyway, talking about Africa, I personally don't like just interpreting things the way I see them. I better say what is happening behind the scene, which affects, which is a direct, which what we see is the effect of what is happening behind the scene. For example, I heard Profs talk about Ouattara. Ouattara first said he doesn't want to run for president. Then he changed his mind, or officially changed his mind that he's gonna run for president. That means that if he has to shift position, it is because the decision is taken somewhere else, or something is happening behind the scene that we others don't see, and it has to force him to change what is going on. So, and that happens in most of these African countries because there are things that are happening behind the scene that force the situation to continue to either stay like this or change or something. So that's why I like to take my things from behind the scene. And that might bring us to understand what is happening now and why this or that. So to bring something to be clear, let's remind us at the beginning of this year, there was like riots in France. It was a Gilets jaunes that was asking for Macron to go and whatever they were requesting for him to happen. 2 months earlier, Christine Lagarde was in Chad, and we had all the presidents of the Central African Central African Monetary Zone, CEMAC. They all went to Chad because they wanted to devalue the CFA francs. What does that mean? It means that it was another way to pay the people that doesn't go to work, or the jobless people, or the economy of France. It was another way to inject money into the economy of France. So Africa had to pay for it like it used to do during colonization. When Christine Lagarde was in charge, the Central African Zone, the CEMAC, refused to devalue that franc CFA. 2 months later, you can see what happened in France. It means that the two situations are interconnected. That's one. The second thing that we need to know what is happening in Mali right now. Why is France, or why is the ECOWAS deciding to put back Ibeka on the seat? Why? First, because there is Goa, the northern Mali. And let me tell you something. With a satellite, how do you call it? Satellite mapping of that particular zone in Mali, if you guys know Mali a little bit, or on the map, there is a huge underground, a huge water deposits that can fill the whole world for at least 100 years. That is pure water deposits. That is one on that particular area in Mali, in that Saharan desert. That's satellite mapping. Is a NASA that did it. That's one. The second thing is the gold that is also there, and then all the other minerals in that particular area. What does that mean? It means that the world is changing. I mean, in 2030, that's from now, they're gonna be using electric cars which are manufactured by Tesla, and Honda has started all these hybrid cars. That's where the world is shifting. They don't want to emit carbon dioxide from cars and everything. So they want to change it. San Francisco in particular going to be kind of like the center of the world. I mean, if that happens. So they have to balance wherever they can have minerals to support that. It's in 10 years from now to support that. That is the second thing. So they have to do every single thing to have or to control the minerals. If you guys listen to the American news, I don't know, 3 weeks or 4 weeks ago, this is what the NSA said. The next world war gonna be won by the person that will control the natural resources. That's the second thing. The third thing that is happening, the person that was sent from Nigeria to Mali, his name is Goodluck Jonathan Ebele, the ex-president of Nigeria. You guys can go to the news. It happened in the news. I'm not. Why is him part of the people? Why is not Buhari going? Or why is not the Ghanaian people? Why? Because
Buhari also went after.
Goodluck Jonathan Ebele is. Yeah, no, I'm talking right now. The person that is trying to bring back the person that is sent. I'm just explaining why they put him in the how they call it, in the team, because he's from the south in Nigeria.
Yes,
And if you guys notice, a couple of weeks, a couple of days or something, there is something happening that about the one. So some people, the West, want to control the natural gas resources that is in that zone, Bakassi and the Delta, the Nigerian Delta area, that particular zone, where the Atlantic City is going to be put there or something. So yeah, so I want to give this background notice because that affects exactly why people will tell you that they didn't want to be president, and then suddenly they change, they want to be president. Because the decision has been taken with respect to what is being changing into the world and where the world is orienting. So what's the point? Is because if you guys go, I sent it to Prof the other day. I don't know if I sent it to a couple of guys. The IMF 2024 report of the economic zone in the world. So all the Western countries except Germany and America they're not gonna be among the first 10 or something. I think France gonna be number 10, and then Italy or all these guys are going down. So that means that China and the eastern area, the eastern hemisphere, is taking over as the superpower of the world, financial superpower of the world. It means that some people standard of living gonna be influenced. This is real things. You can see it. I also send it. I don't know if I sent it to Prof or somebody. There was Nicolas Sarkozy. I said it last week. Nicolas Sarkozy they invited him in one of the meetings, and there was one minister from Senegal who talk about that, about global warming and so on. And then Nicolas Sarkozy answered and said, we're talking about natural resources. And I mean, he was very, very precise in those. And when you see the expression on his face, you see somebody was fighting something. So that's the real thing, because some people's standard of living gonna be influenced. And it's gonna be influenced first in 3 years, and then in 10 years. So those are the things that are shifting and which kind of
it gets me very hurt, and I become very angry. That is how I always describe my situation. I always get very angry about how the situation or the international system has been designed. It is not just by chance or by random that we have been placed where we are. But I think that majority of the African people are not so angry the way we're supposed to be, because I don't think that nobody will be able to hear our cry. Nobody cares about your crying. Angry actually get things done. If you really want to have things done, you need to be angry, and be angry for things that you rightfully do you. Today we are speaking about the Continental Free Trade Agreement. And I think that, let me put it this way, it is possibly, objectively, the people who place it there, it is the interest is not to get we, the African people, benefit or get anything done. Because if you look at what is actually going to happen, more than 90% of the things which are going to be traded within Africa or among ourselves are things which are going to be produced outside, and it's going to be a dumping ground. So in this case, things are just going to be flown into Africa, and when it gets to one port, you can move it freely to every aspect or every area without paying import duties or import taxes. So it is just like put the system there. Let's have an entry point, one entry point, pay one tax, and be able to move goods everywhere. So that is basically the case. But just like social media, where when it was designed, it was for us, it was just to come and waste our time and also waste our resources. But in reality, the people of Africa, the youth, took advantage of it and used it to educate and to raise more awareness. I think that no matter what the objective of this Continental Free Trade Agreement or initiative is, we as a people need to be ready and grab it as an opportunity and use it. We need to act. If we just think that things are going to fall in place for us because we think we deserve something, it is not going to happen, which is why I think that we need to come together, act and act and act. The process of independence for the African people, the process of liberation for Africa, which was started some way back ago, has never ended. We are nowhere near that process. Possibly we are not going to get it completed, but the reality is that let us get it done and get it known that that process has not ended. And this continental free trade, the objective is not to benefit the African, but you and I. If we put ourselves together in unity, we can continentally determine and use it for our advantage and be able to bring back what is due us. So youth and everyone, let us get ourselves together and benefit from it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Kwajo, for that contribution. And you're talking about youth. You just got me to the point where I wanted to talk to Jazil. I want to ask him about how youth to profit, with this initiative that has been launched in Ghana. Before I get to Prof, who will answer the question I have for him, and then to the final remarks. So, Jazil, tell me something. How do you feel about the youth in this, mix-up, in this whole story, this African continental free trade area? Do you think that they stand to benefit from this?
The youth, if the youth benefit from this, yeah, well, that's all meant to be seen. That's what I was talking about earlier. I heard the goals that they were mentioning, but they didn't mention how or what were the plans. Like, for example, they say free trade, but they never mention one time like a no customs fee. So some of the things that the guy was saying right now, I didn't hear them say it. I just honestly never heard anybody. I was waiting to hear somebody say how they plan to get to this place, but they never mentioned it. They just mentioned what their goals were. So it made me feel a little bit, a little bit as if it was just talk, basically.
Oh, okay, right. Thank you very much, Jazil, for the contribution. I'm also gonna, before I get to the question that I have for Prof, uh, let me mention that we're seeing a change, like I said, and we're all hoping for the better. That it is, it is a positive change, and we don't want to hold back. You know, like Prof said, he's optimistic, and I think it's an attitude that we all, you know, have to carry, given the fact that we have this dream for Africa, we have this desire to see Africa, a better Africa. Prof, let me get to you. Let's talk about the youth. We've heard all, you know, every contribution that has been made. We've seen the part where sometimes we're believing that the Europeans are playing with the Africans' mentality. We've seen economical diversification. You know, we've seen the fences that were built, you know, by the Caucasians or by the white in those for a reason. When we put all of this together, and we've also seen leadership. We've seen the corrupt leaders as well. We've seen if we stand a chance with them still being in power. We stand a chance with them if they're able to free themselves from, you know, the puppet masters. So I want to give you a chance to envelope every of this, and vis-a-vis or in relation to the movement, the Pan-African Freedom Movement, tell us how we can find a way forward.
Okay, thank you, Blandine. Again, I want to say that now is the time for the African youth. This is 60 years after independence, when some youths rose up 60 years ago and decided to ask for the independence of African states. And with their persistence and vigorosity and vibrancy, they went round from colonial state to colonial state, talking to youths all over and encouraging them from wheresoever they were to, at the end of the day, they got to say, okay, this is a fight each and every one of us should get involved in. And you know what? These African youths persisted in their fight till they got their independence. And so when they got their independence, oh, today we are no more talking about independence. They got the independence. I might have downplayed the independence because still they were just puppets under the arms of the colonial masters, but they got something at least that has been permitting us to live freely in Africa, do our things the way we want, though not actually getting enough of what we could, because we are having all the material and natural resources here, and we are the people who have the energy to be able to transform these, but that has not been given to us. But I believe 60 years have passed on, and another group of 60 of youth have seen a reason why they don't only need to say they have independent of states, but they also want not just independent of states, they want independent economically, and they also want to see into it that the various borders that have been limiting them from actually relating one to another should be lifted. So I want to tell you that irrespective of all the so-called European manipulation, the youth of today in Africa are having what it takes to lift Africa to the place of grace and authority, to the place where it can actually lead Africa again. So that same energy that brought independence is still with the youth of today. It is true for a long period of time they have lived in a state of complete brainwashing, but I believe that though they have been brainwashed, some of them have come to light. And I want to believe that the reason why we are having this particular talk show right now where we are talking to Africans is because we have come to a level of illumination that can permit us to be able to talk to others so that they can be enlightened as well. And you know, with this, we are doing something that is awakening the spirit of the African youth that will cause them to rise up as a people. And this brings me to the reason why we created a platform like this that permits us to discuss and also to plan and project and also to be able to act on our projects. When Pan-African Freedom Movement was conceived, it was conceived because of the fact that we looked around and we saw that Africa could be better than what it is today. And we discovered that there is great energy that is being wasted. When this energy I'm talking about is youthful energy. This great energy was being wasted. And we saw that through the group, we could activate this energy and channel it towards the rightful direction of productivity, because the entire thing lies behind productivity. Africans are being disrespected all around the globe. Today, it's not because they are just blacks. It is because of the mentality that they possess. Bob Marley once sang and said, there is need for a mental revolution. We need to be able to reform the minds of the African people so that they can get to understand the importance of being an African. We are a people who are resilient and who are as strong as possible, who are productive. But we have been brainwashed to believe that we can't give anything. There's a video of William who created the cargo. I don't know if you've watched that video. I sent it on Facebook. And this cargo is electronic, which is meant to transport goods from one place to the other. You can buy something here and that cargo carries it and brings it to your house without any driver in it. It's electronically controlled. It is a kind of car. It was not manufactured by a white man. And that is how majority of the products we have out there in the market have not been manufactured by white men. They've been manufactured by black-skinned men and brothers. William left from Africa. He was not born in Europe. He was born in Africa. He went there. And he has used his brains to come out with that. And yet, most of our brothers, because of the mindset which we have been imprisoned in, believe that we can't contribute anything, so we just go around consuming. When you see Africans go out of Africa, what are they looking for? They are looking for jobs. The youths are out there seeking for jobs, not seeking to create jobs. And so this has caused the world to start looking down on them and thinking that they are unproductive. And so as a result of that, you don't expect that they should be respected. And that is why we are struggling to make the African youth to discover that they have what it takes to make that difference. They have that energy to create inside of them. A lot of us can do more. Check around, you will discover that we have done more. But we also need to get to the place where wheresoever we are, we start coming together. Because it is when we are together that we make a better difference. We make a difference. When we are separated, a black man chooses to fight against a black man, shoot a black man, kill a black man. But when a white man rises and does that, we say, oh, Black Lives Matter. We need the lives of all black people to matter, to even blacks also. We must come together as blacks all over the world and work as a team. I mentioned earlier that when the Jews, whether they are living in Germany, they're living in Ireland, they're living in America, when they are standing out, they don't stand and say we are Americans, even though they might be Americans by birth, they might be American in citizenship, but they believe that they are Jews and they stand for the Jewish nation as a group of people. Why is it that Africans all over the world do not believe that they are from Africa? Because we have been brainwashed to believe we are a divisive people. We are not divisive. So I think that Fremo was created to cause the African youth to get to start seeing themselves as a collective group of people who has the potency to actually produce and to reproduce results making oriented youth. That is why we are encouraging every youth out there watching the video streamed on Facebook, and those that are going to be watching on YouTube, those that are watching presently involved in the Zoom meeting. I want us to know it is our responsibility, nobody's responsibility. Nobody will do it for Africa. It is a choice that we must make. And like I said, Pafremo is that umbrella through which we could work together and make that difference. We just launched a green revolution, which actually, as from September, it is going to be going. We will make it really effective. So in this green revolution, what are we doing? I said earlier when I was talking to the diasporans, and I said, we must believe one thing. We can only industrialize what we have, not what we borrow, not what we bring in. Industrialization does not start with borrowed things. It starts with what we have. And what we have is agriculture. So we must industrialize agriculture. And that is what we'll use to be able to exchange with the world out there. Somebody mentioned here earlier that food and natural resources will become the power of tomorrow. That we have in Africa, and youth must be able to protect it here in Africa. We must do everything possible to protect it and be able to make sure that this continent of Africa becomes that place where everybody wants to come. But before you come here, you are not coming to impose on us. And that is why I said I took the launching of the headquarter office of the African Continental Free Trade Area as an opportunity. I saw it as a green light that is pointing us towards something that is great that is coming. Before it is the end of December, I'm asking that every African youth, wheresoever they are, should be able to start planning how to make use of the opportunity that is created. Even though they did not tell us whether there will not be taxes to be paid or there will not be any custom taxes or custom whatsoever that will be paid for us to to move across one border to the next in Africa. I believe that that package was not unveiled, but we can also enforce it and define it with our majority as youths all over the African continent. When we unite together, we carry a force that we can talk and they will listen to us. And we will have the ability to influence our leadership by our majority. I will say this again and I will repeat it. Youth, Africa is a continent that is a youthful population. It's a continent made up of a population of average age of 18. And as a result of that, we do have the ability to make decisions for ourselves and for the future. So I want to say, every youth listening to me, you should take advantage of your youthfulness and be able to make those decisions that are necessary for Africa to become the place that is supposed to be. We have that power to bring this youth together, this platform. That is why I'm going to call on every youth. Make sure that you enlist to become a member of Pafremo, because Pafremo is, we are supposed to make it to become a household name. We are supposed to make it to become the umbrella and the vehicle through which the African energy can be channeled to be able to unleash this great power that we have in us, to unleash this power of productivity that we do have. If we do that, I want to be sincere to you, we will make a great difference. And that difference is not far from us. I will repeat this to you. The distance between a vision like the one we are presenting and realization is just action. When we start acting on the various visions that we have on this particular platform and the projects that we have, it will attract a lot of persons. And attracting these youths, they will see that we are realizing a lot of things and they will believe in themselves, because the only issue that is a problem right now with most of our African brothers is the fact that most of them don't believe in themselves. And because they don't believe in themselves, they get to feel, okay, I am nobody, so let me go searching. So that's why Chinese people are able to molest our brothers. And at the end of the day, when they are molested, we get to say, oh, Africa is suffering. Africa is that. But we can change that. We can change that.
Pharaoh, can you mute your mic?
Kennedy, I would like you to mute everybody's mic, please.
Can you mute everybody's mic, please, Kennedy?
So, to repeat and to come to a conclusion, of what I was saying, that's drawing a conclusive line. I want you to know that we have what it takes to actually make the difference. Pan-African Freedom Movement is a vehicle that should be used and should be used well. We expect that the youths of Africa, if they want to make a difference, they want to join the action-oriented youth, then they need to join PAFREMO, because in Pan-African Freedom Movement, it is not our majority. It is in the ability to act on what we decide over. We have projects which we have started acting over to actually make you believe that we are not here to clown. We have launched a green revolution, which is out to actually be able to feed Africa, to stop importation. We have been importing food for years right now, and Africa yearly imports import food of about 35 to 40 billion US dollars. That is terrible. We have the uncultivated arable land of about 60%. So we should be able to make good use of it. That is why I'm calling to the conscience of every youth in Africa to not to take this thing light. We must get to start acting. If not, we will become the slaves of tomorrow. Let me be sincere with you. The person that controls the food, anybody that controls what you eat, is your slave master. If somebody controls your stomach, the person controls your entire being. And if as Africans, we can get to a place where we understand that the production of food is supposed to become an obsessed project for every African, then we will not be sleeping when we see that. We must become obsessed with making sure that agriculture becomes our business. We get into it. All of us, if you had never been a farmer before, we can't sit behind and wait for others to bring that to us. And so we must industrialize the agricultural world in order to be able to give to the world our own uniqueness. Because I believe for now, like a brother told me yesterday, he says that what African people actually need now is food. When they need food, then the next thing is education. When they have food and education, then we can ask them tomorrow, after they must have eaten, to start thinking on how to create other things. So if you want them to become industrialized in technology, first of all, feed them. So the first thing we need to do is industrialize the agricultural world. And when we do that, we can be able to take over our continent back from whosoever is manipulating it from behind. I saw the question of Zakele somewhere where he asked that, what is the idea? I'm sure the idea has been passed to you. I mean, in trying to understand what is being concerned, the concern is that Africa is under manipulation. Africa, for the past while, is being held under bondage by Europeans, and we need to free it from them. And the only way to free it is for you as an I to rise up and take it over from them. And the only way to do that is economically. And before we go through the economic, we must start getting to the things that we know best. And the things we know best, agriculture. Let's invest in it and we will make the difference. That is why Parfremo is here. And so we are calling on every African, go to our website, www.parfremo.org, and enlist yourself to become a partner and a member of this great organization. And when you do that, you will be able to contribute your token, which will be used in transforming Africa. That is my call for every African. I want our host to be able to type that particular website, click to the membership, enlist yourself. When you do that, you are a member of Pan-African Freedom Movement. When you are a member, you need to take a step forward, and that step is to make sure your token is actually coming forth. We have a bank account which we are opening it up for everybody to pour whatsoever they have as finances inside. The bit you can do will make the difference. So I want to believe that we are not going to be talking and talking and talking and nothing is changing. It is time for us to give to African youths a reason to start living. So I am sure, Blandine, this evening, you see me with a little bit of anger when the way I'm talking, because I feel frustrated that my brothers and sisters are being molested around the world when we have everything it takes to make a difference. So I think it's time for us to rise up and make that difference. It's not going to be tomorrow, but it's going to be now. I think now is the time. We should stop dreaming of a future which we might not live in. We should start living in the future that we are in right now, because that future is today. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you so much, Prof. It's very unfortunate that I did not hear your last words, but I do believe that whatever you said was for the benefit.
What I said lastly was that we must start believing in the future, which is now, not the future which is tomorrow. The future we are supposed to live in is now, not tomorrow. The one of tomorrow will be for our children, but we must prepare that one for tomorrow. But the one of today, the future today is the future we should live in and which we are living in. So let's do our everything to contribute in it.
Right. Thank you so much, Prof, for that hearty contribution. And before I leave, there's one thing that Prof said that I think I'm not the only one that got activated with that statement. Afro-Man, could you please mute your mic? Thank you. I was saying that there's something here that Prof said, and I realized that I wasn't the only one captivated by that statement. And he said you can only industrialize that which you have. And that alone speaks for every African out there, that you need to discover yourself. You don't need to be led, or you don't need to be told who you are. You should know who you are. And from knowing who you are, then you know where you need to be. I'm not saying where you can be, I'm saying where you need to be, because thus it's a necessity for every African to, wake up, smell the coffee, and make a change for not only us. Well, he says the future begins now, so not only us, but for generations to come. And I'm not going to say good night to everyone until we get a word or two from Kennedy. You've been very, very quiet today, Kennedy.
Word from Kennedy, a word from Kennedy, a word from Pharaoh, a word from Zai, a word from Afro, a word from Zekle. We have 3 minutes, please.
Okay, so the Intercontinental Free Trade Building that was opened, the prospects for trade between the continents, countries. The point that was made is that the goods and services that are going to be traded will not be manufactured in Africa. Those are critically important points. We, on the other hand, need to use any and all opportunities and to maximize those opportunities so that they work in our favor. We need to be strategic about what we do and how we do it. And it really calls for some deep thinking. The discussions are very healthy and they're good, but we need to be analytical in our thinking, very analytical, very strategic, very deliberate, so that we know precisely what we want to achieve, how we are going to go about and achieving it. We need to know who our enemies are and what the pros and cons are, what our strengths and weaknesses are. I would stop there. 3 minutes we do have.
Thank you very much, Kennedy, for that. I think the next person who had to say something was Pharaoh.
Okay. Thanks everyone for the opportunity tonight. Thanks everyone for talking. Prof said it all. We need to, if Africa's got 60% of arable farm still to be cultivated, we can feed 9 billion people. Wary of the fact that the world's population stands at 7.5 billion. I don't understand why Cameroon had to drag Nigeria to take. Cameroon had to drag Nigeria, or Nigeria had to drag Cameroon, the International Tribunal. They had 1994, 1995, 1996, and then the verdict actually came in 2006. The Green Treaty, the Mexican Article 3, the Green Treaty, see the verdict between Cameroon and Nigeria on the Bakassi Peninsula. Well, we can work together regardless of where you come from. You African, the blacks. That's the thing. Blacks born here are marginalized. Blacks born in this country are discriminated on. So we can come together, we build a continent. I should be looking at the possibility of buying a house in Kenya, buying a house in Ghana. Well, most Black Americans, they most of the houses in Ghana. Anyway, I should be thinking of buying a house in Tanzania, buying a house in Uganda, buying a house in Nigeria. Why not? So we should trade. That's the same way these guys build Europe. The company here set up the company in the Republic, they set up a company in Romania for cheap labor. An American set up a company in China. An American set up a company in Bangladesh, which is not in the United States. So Africa with notoriety, with this vastness, all this geography, and then we should do it. So I believe Prof is going to get to me about these hectares of land. I'm very interested in that one. I'm very happy to hear that you want to industrialize people, you feed them first. You can only industrialize what you have. Feed them first, if they're well fed, and then we can talk about technology. They should be hungry and then be listening to technology. Thanks, everyone. That's my contribution for tonight. Ciao, ciao, ciao.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Pharaoh.
Thank you very much, Pharaoh, for that contribution. I think the next person we had was Afroman, right? Afroman, are you there?
Hello.
Pharaoh, could you please mute your mic? Thank you. Yes, Afroman.
Yeah, can I go?
You can.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much for the opportunity that you're giving me. I'm Barakat from East Africa. It's really nice to meet you first here. All I one can say is I just focusing on the agriculture for the African future can help us get out of this condition, because we need to build our people mind than wasting our money on some agriculture, because we have to have a people first, and people who love each other, or people who silence their guns for sake of their own people, the people who really care about the future of the generation that is coming, the people who cares about the dividend that is coming to the country, the people who really cares about breaking the artificial borders between nation to nation. We have to break this first. We have to teach, we have to preach our people first. And I believe we are the only generation who can solve this all conflict. I believe we are the only generation who can solve the drastic obstacle for our African Union. So I believe teaching people is a better thing than growing food, because the the learning, the people that we are preaching will grow the food after, because education first, I believe. Yeah, than food. Yeah, food is priority, but education is better, because we are having a different time and a different generation and a different obstacles between us. So we have to teach our people first. We have to educate our people. We need to teach them again, because even
Can you educate somebody with a
even
hungry stomach?
I live in, excuse me?
He's asking if you can
Hello?
educate someone with a hungry stomach.
Yeah, you're right. Even let me tell you from my life experience. Since I live in East Africa, you know, it's in instability, right? But in East Africa, the land is still green. There is a lot of food, but there is no peace. So what should I have to eat when there is no peace? Because I know I'm gonna die tomorrow or some other day, but I have to teach my people. I gotta teach them how to grow food, not, but how to live together in harmony way. Because even in Ethiopia, we've been together for 27 years and in a good condition, but now it's turning to a war. Why? It's not, the food is everywhere, but the food cannot be our answer to our question. But we have to teach our people.
Okay. Thank you so much, Afroman. I don't want to, you know, we could go on and talk forever and ever and ever. But at this point, I'm thinking that we should call it a day and make a rendezvous for Tuesday. We'll get a hold of you. We'll get a hold of you and see if, you know, your role as the panelist is. So let me not say everything out here, because we're trying to say good night to everyone. And thank you all for joining us this evening. Thank you so much to our panelists. Thank you to you, Jazil. Thank you very much to you, Prof. Thank you, Kennedy. Thank you, Quattro. Thank you, Zakele. Thank you, Afroman. Thank you, Pharaoh. Thank you, Damien. Thank you, Zai. Thank you, Julie. Thank you, Sarah, who joined us a little bit late, but like I told Damien, you know, it's better to be late than never. So it's a note that, Zakele, finally we see you. You've been on forever, and we've never known who the person behind, you know, behind. So it's a pleasure seeing you today. Thank you for gracing us with your image, and hopefully
I only move in silent, and I talk when it's time to say checkmate.
So definitely, hopefully on Tuesday we'll say checkmate.
Okay. Good night to everyone. Have a blessed evening.
Zakili sounds like a good ally to have. He says he moves in silent and only checkmates.
Good
He's
night.
a good ally to have for sure. All right. Good to see everybody. Sierra.
Good night.
Cheers, everyone.
See you on Tuesday, same time. Good day to you, Kennedy. Good day to you, Kennedy.
Good day to you, Blandine. Hi, Sarah. Good to see you.
Okay, have a great night, everyone.
Great having you on.
Have a great night.
All right, Professor. Have a good night. Yeah. Hey, Ecuador, Daniel, it's California. Julie. Bye, everyone. Great show.
Bye, everyone.
Afro Man, great show as well. Great comment.